That's great.
Silicon Valley, technology, art, green, and sustainability.
Yeah, I know. So
Welcome to another episode of Silicon Valley Tech, Art, Green, and Sustainability. We're celebrating our 7th year, and so we started filming 7 years ago, February 2009, and our first show aired March 2009. So tonight I'm very honored to have a dear friend with me, Frank Jewett, who does so much, and you do so much, and I can't even, people say they can't keep up with me, but I can't keep up with you. You just do so much. I'm so impressed. Before we start talking about business and what you're doing, and we're going to talk a little bit about what's been going on in the last 7 years here in the Valley. Silicon Valley's changed a little bit, from technology to housing to other things. Tell us about you and your background and what you do, because you do a lot.
Well, Heather, thank you again for having me on your show. It's
Yeah.
it's clearly an honor to be on your show, and certainly to have had some involvement in that germ of an idea to help you get your show going, and you've done a tremendous job, and I applaud you for.
Well, I thank you
for all that you're doing.
letting me know about the station, and thank you so much.
Absolutely, this has truly been a community asset, and I'm glad that you're doing it, and you're playing a key role in helping to expose many things to this community. Again, for those looking in, I'm Frank Jewett, and I am the co-founder and executive producer for Issues Today, the Community Television Forum, which began in May of '95, and I began it with Don Wolf, and Don is since passed, but
And how did the two of you meet?
we met through political channels and involvement. You know, Don had served on the city council in Saratoga. We helped get him elected there, and then he and I served together on the West Valley Mission Community College District Board, where I was elected, and he had served a term as well. And so we'd done a lot of political things and realized that it was important to continue to talk about some of the needs of the community. And so
And again, did you grow up in the Bay Area?
No, I grew up in Southern California.
Okay.
And so I've got this accent.
And no accent. We're just
No,
California accent. And you
and-
went to college here.
And so I came to San Jose on a track scholarship
Oh.
from Southern California.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, and so it was supposed to be just short term. You know, you come up here, you take advantage of the opportunity to have a scholarship and to do your very best academically
And that was at San Jose State?
San Jose State,
Okay.
athletically and academically, and then I got, like you, very active and very involved in the community, involved in the university, and so began this long process of immersing myself in the community with so many different groups that provide so much to the betterment of the
we have mutual
community.
friends from San Jose State, but I think we met through the chamber, right? Or
Yeah,
something.
I believe we did.
You were really involved with the chamber and
the-
other organizations.
San Jose Silicon Valley Chamber of Commerce has been at the core a strong engine for economic development enhancement in the valley. And when I was in my banking phase of my career, we had to go and learn about what's going on in the community. And there's so many great things going on, and they're doing so many great things at the chamber now.
And now you do consulting and technology, and tell us about the consulting that you do.
I consult broad-basely to various business organizations regarding how they can come to market, how they can market and provide, have more greater elevation and exposure to their organization. And so
And you also recently got your master's.
yeah,
And you serve with the military too, which is pretty
Yeah,
interesting, which is why you're in great shape, right?
That's what they tell me. I said that you got to stay in shape. I mean, you no matter how old you are, you got to keep working at it. But yeah, I did go back, and most people said it's too late to go back to school. And I will tell anybody looking in that that was a great experience as an older student to go back and go down that path. And
Oh, come on, we're not that old.
no, I know, but I mean, when you're no longer 20-something or 30-something, say, you know, we're still very young. But it was a great experience at St. Mary's College through their Executive MBA program to learn from a myriad of people and to provide some great insights from my experiences, both political and business. And so I'm working with a small company in the Valley, Accelerate Networks, which is doing some phenomenal things in terms of IT technology and consulting. They provide some of the key necessities and components that help organizations be successful, whether it be their storage or backup, their disaster recovery, their firewalls, their network security, their cloud computing, and so consultation on that, and use some of the best of breed applications. And we have strategic partners, IBM, HP, Brocade, Dell, Wheeland Network, Secure 64 Array, Light Cyber, that collectively are providing some instrumental value to where we are going in terms of technology and the confluence of what is happening from us going from hardware-based, you know, to cloud-based, and the security that's necessary to secure some of the great technology that is being developed in Silicon Valley.
So again, late 2008, you introduced me to Create TV, and you've been doing a show at that time, Issues Today, for 15 years, I think.
Yes.
And so you are coming up on almost on your 500th show. Tell us about what Issues Today, what do they cover? What do you cover in the show?
Well, people always ask that question, and I think that when we started off, we didn't want to get pigeonholed into one particular area, so we are focused on broad-based value to the community. So we're looking at local, state, and federal issues and bringing information to the community that they oftentimes don't get. And so what we often say is that we bring you issues today because there's truly got to be a better way. And what you're doing is indicative of a better way, and that's sort of the thread also for Issues Today, is to provide that better way. There are 4,500 nonprofit organizations in the Valley that are doing some phenomenal things, and we've had the opportunity to have educators on, to have nonprofit leaders on, to talk about some of the things that have enhanced the quality of life in the Valley.
So how long have you been producing then? Because that was 15 years then.
We're in our 21st year
Wow.
of production,
And what motivated you?
and we happened to be on a show. I was asked to run for the state legislature in '94, and I was on someone else's show. I believe his name was Tim Fitzgerald, or at that time, and he was before Create TV. You know, the cable access provided opportunities for individuals to have shows, and I was at. They said, "Well, you should get a show," and it like you said, it didn't dawn on me.
And that was Comcast back then.
That was Comcast.
That wasn't the Create TV because they weren't born
They
at
weren't
that time.
born at that time. So those various iterations along the way, and we were asked to look at this as a plausible way to continue service and continue to get a broad-based message out. And so we began down that path of having executive directors on, community leaders on, legislators, and to provide again some of the key information that the community needed to have and on an ongoing basis, and believe that we were providing a service, as you are, in terms of getting the word out about so many important things that are necessary and important and have some value in terms of effectuating some positive influential change in the valley.
I'm going to pull up the first slide. I'm kind of behind on the slides right now, which shows us Silicon Valley. It's got a little map with all the tech companies, and you've got San Francisco, and then you've got actually down in the South Bay. And I think we can pull that down. People consider, Silicon Valley is really broad. I think people consider all the way up to Marin, and there's a lot of tech companies everywhere. A lot has changed in the last 7 years. The housing has just exploded, right? And in 2008, I think when we met, there was kind of a tech bust again. 2002, 2008. They kind of expect there's a little flow in that. Let's bring up the next slide too. It shows Silicon Valley waves of innovation and the different technology, vacuum tubes, test equipment, microwave, all the way up to social media. We can pull that down. There's different waves. We're talking about wearable and VMware and different waves of technology also, and we're going to look at that. What are your thoughts about the economy, and how are things going with that? In the last 7 years?
I believe that as we came out of the economic downturn of 2008 and we began to move forward, what we saw was, again, re-looking at and going back to the basics of strong business fundamentals. And so you have companies now that are on the forefront of technology, and you have the nexus of having the schools in this area, San Jose State, Stanford, and Berkeley, and certainly other schools that are incubating the students that the high-tech companies are looking for to provide some of the new emerging technology. And so I think that our economy took that downturn. Housing in 2008 had dropped in some areas by 50%, and people were very worried, and we did have lower housing, but we also lost jobs. And so when we have an economy in which it is doing as well as it is in this area where we have low unemployment, we're also going to face that battle of having challenges with housing.
Well, and so San Jose State has a really great engineering program, and not just Stanford, but there's also Hayward, and then of course Berkeley. Some great universities that are bringing some great minds. Let's pull up the next slide. Just recently, it was the Economic Summit, the GES. The slide on the left shows some of the tech companies. Of course, Apple is expanding, and entrepreneurship in the Silicon Valley. We can pull that down. There's just so much. I'm always hearing about new companies. We just don't have enough time to have all of them on the show. But that was one of the motivations too, is that if you have a startup company and they get some exposure and they do well, they're going to hire more people, the community is going to do better. And so that was one of the motivations for having SVTAGS. This entrepreneur summit that just happened, and Obama just came out. What do you think of that? I mean, we need to have more of that here, don't we? More of those type of summits.
The spirit of entrepreneurialism is strong in Silicon Valley. I mean, I think that by San Jose declaring itself the capital of Silicon Valley should continue to move forward, and we should continue to push back on regulation that is going to make it more difficult for small business to grow and thrive. And we also should nurture and make sure that there is adequate funding for those ideas that have strong value and are on the forefront. There's a lady by the name of Gloria Gunther, and she's involved with organizations that are looking for small companies to fund. It's the Silicon Valley Venture Capital Roundtable. And so you look at what's brought this valley to the point in which it has developed.
Right, and there's the Band of Angels, there's a couple of organizations, right? And then the traditional venture capital companies that are sitting on Sand Hill.
Sand Hill Road, the Angels and things like that.
Yeah.
There's the dojo where people can go to work on their projects, and there are places in San Jose where you can do that as well. And this area has been like no other in terms of the encouragement of entrepreneurialism, and I think that we need to continue on that course and on that trajectory, because as we see the decrease of manufacturing, the intellectual capital and value add is what is providing the buoyancy for our economy and for where we're to go, because California continues to be the leader economically, but as we see the encroachment of some of the government policies and things like that, we're seeing more companies begin to make movements toward Texas and other states that are less restrictive. And we should be mindful of that, because we don't want to have ourselves turn around and say, why did so many companies leave this area?
So the economy, do you predict there'll be another bust? So in the 90s there was a bust, then 2002, 2008, 2002, 2008, 6 years. It's been 6 years now. We're doing pretty strong. There probably will be another bust, but it will probably recover quickly.
The cyclical nature of economics will tell us that we will have a downturn. The current management by the Fed in terms of lower interest rates are helping us have a more managed economy, so that we won't experience the major downturn that we had. You're always going to have that. You saw what happened in England and what's going on with the EU, and unfortunately we're a part of that. And when the stock market went down by 600 points, that wiped out all the gains for this year. And so you're going to have to look at looking into the next half of this year to see how the stock market's going to recover. But I think that one of the things that we've got to look at is making sure that the planning is in place and we're not overextending ourselves to the point where if we begin to have a downturn, that it won't be so significant. When
watching your credit, making sure you're not overextended.
Well, certainly from a business perspective
right.
as well. And when we had the situation with the mortgage bailout and the mortgage
that brings me
debacle.
to, I'm going to bring up another slide too, because that brings us to the housing question, or question 4. We're looking at the housing prices. They're going up, up, up. We can pull that slide down. My mom sold, I won't say how much, her house in Saratoga that she bought in the 60s in 1980. If she had waited a few more years, it would have been over $1 million. The houses there have just gone up, 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 and all the housing. People are expanding out further and further to find places to live, commuting in, and they're building more. Are we building, what do you think the housing situation? Are we building fast enough to accommodate the workforce?
Well, I think that we have to look at it from a multi-dimensional perspective. One of the things that you have is that you have 38 million people in the state of California. By 2020, you're expecting 40 million people. The Rincon project, which is in San Jose, along.
What is it, the Rincon?
It's called the Rincon project,
okay, yeah.
which runs down First Street. They're expecting 100,000 people, and so there is steady building. But unfortunately, when you go through the process, it's a 2 to 3 or more year process, depending on where you're building, in terms of the financing and the approval process. And then, so the multitude of those processes makes it more difficult to get new stock on. And by the time you get new housing on the market, you may have a downturn, which is what we experienced when we had a number of condos in downtown San Jose that came on the market only to be too late for buyers to be able to afford them, because the market had hit a downturn at that point. So then they had to begin that process of leasing and renting those units. But I think that the strategic planning for the valley needs to be such where we are looking at the number of people that are coming in, looking at what the needs are, and also looking at it from a regional perspective and saying, if we can't house these folks, or it's too expensive here, then we need to work with our partners in other counties and other areas, so that there isn't such an impingement on the local community, where there's a dispersion of housing and jobs. They're not all just coming into one particular area.
I'm going to pull up that other slide and then move on to the next. Let's see what this slide is. of course, this is another reason that the Bay Area is so liked, right? You have Santa Cruz, the mountains there. We also have the other mountains, only 3 hours, San Francisco. So, everybody wants to, we can pull that down. Everybody wants to live in the Bay Area because it's beautiful. The climate's great. Okay, next, what about the human condition in the Bay Area? There's been a lot of shootings in the U.S. There's been a lot of different issues that have come up. Let's pull up the next slide. This one I believe is, so this is the gay pride parade that happens every year in San Francisco. The bottom photo there is every person that died in Orlando recently. We can pull that slide down. Every community has issues. How do you think that we're handling issues here in the Bay Area? And we'll pull up that other slide too. There's one more slide. The bottom one is a guy protesting beachfront access. The top two are the Trump rally and some issues there. We could pull that down. Apparently Sacramento, a couple other towns, there was also some rioting that happened during Trump rallies, and the police really didn't do anything. What do you think about the human condition in the Bay Area? Are we better off than other places because we're more tolerant, or what do you think?
Well, the Bay Area has shown unbelievable tolerance. As you look at where we were in the '60s to now, I think that people would have to agree that things have changed dramatically for the better. I think there's some people that you have to acknowledge that with the things that aren't quite right. But I think that overall, I think putting more people too. It seems like people traffic-wise lately too. It seems like people are more on edge because there's, traffic's getting worse and worse because there's more people. And road conditions haven't changed, so road conditions haven't changed as much as they need to. I think that the tremendous diversity of Silicon Valley is also the beauty of it. Is a beauty of it, and that's a dynamic to our economic success. And so I think that the tolerance is a key component to people understanding that we have to work together because we're all kind of rowing this major economic paddle. And so we've got to be rowing this boat. And so we need to be focused on that. And I think some areas of the country are less focused on the economic dynamics. And so the other things get in the way of the overall success. And I think that this area has been able to organically, in some ways, and certainly there's been a lot of work on social policy issues that have focused individuals to be thinking more about how they're interacting with others, and I know that a lot of nonprofits are also. So I know growing up in Saratoga, I grew up in a family of funeral directors, and there was a family member, a friend of the family, used to like to dress as a woman. And growing up in a family of funeral directors, it was always love, not hate. And as a child, I didn't understand that. My mom said, it doesn't matter who you love or how you love, as long as you're loving and not hating. And that's really a message, hopefully, that the Bay Area will pull through more as we start getting more people. We only have a couple more minutes left. I'm going to pull up the next slide, which is auto industry. Over 20 R&D labs here. I can pull that slide down in the Bay Area. Technology obviously is the key thing for growth. 20 R&D labs. Other areas, web security. Let's pull that up real quick, the slide on web security. We've got a military security thing on the top here, cybersecurity. Tell us your thoughts on that real quick. And you have been in that industry for a while. There was the RSA show in San Francisco where there were over 300 or more vendors talking about cybersecurity. There was a cybersecurity conference in Berkeley, at UC Berkeley, a week or so ago. And so it is top of mind. Every other day in the newspaper, we're seeing the necessity to secure our assets from a company perspective, and certainly from an individual perspective. So I think that if people are looking in, they're saying, well, where should I be looking at from a new career path or perspective? I think that they want to look into the technology area. They want to look into the cybersecurity because it's so important, and it is going to have dramatic implications for us as a nation and for us in California to protect the integrity of our intellectual property rights.
And you may have
assets.
an event that you're going to be doing soon too, right? So
Yes.
people can contact you. You've been involved in the cybersecurity for a long time. Now I'm going to pull up another slide too. Building industry, there's so many. We're looking here at a small solar chip. Nest was created in the Bay Area. We've got solar panels. Pull that down. Wearables, let's pull up that slide. That's kind of the future of Silicon Valley. Let's pull up the wearable slides. Cybersecurity with wearables, that's another big issue. Somebody hacking into your refrigerator, and you know, actually that's the home again, but hacking into something that's on your phone, on your watch, or something you're wearing. So that's going to be something that we're going to have to kind of figure out here in Silicon Valley too.
I was just at an event with HP, and they have the retina scan now. And so if you worry about your phone or someone getting onto your computer, they're now moving in that direction where your computer can only be accessed through the retina or through the thumbprint. So we're moving more and more to this new frontier, so to speak, in terms of technology, in terms of securing our intellectual property and assets.
Well, there was a movie at CineQuest called Eye in the Sky, and it was all about how the military has so much more advanced. You know, they have a hummingbird that wasn't a hummingbird. It was actually going in and flying and looking. So it'll be interesting. Apparently, it used to be it would trickle down from the military to us, the technology, but it seems like it's going the other way now. We only have a couple minutes left. Do you want to leave any final thoughts with the audience?
Yeah, I would just simply say it's been a sincere pleasure to be on the show with you, and I applaud your leadership and all that you've done to effectuate change in the community. We're looking to have an event, Accelerate Networks. It's going to be the Silicon Valley Tech and Cybersecurity Conference on October 20th. And if people want more information,
And that'll be an annual event too, people can check out? Yeah?
It should be an annual event that will be going forward, but this will have many companies there. We're also going to be helping those in the military that are looking for opportunities in technology. So we'd like to make sure that more veterans get an opportunity to explore and actually achieve
Well, on that,
success.
I'm getting the closing, so you're going to have to come back on the show again so we get to the other questions we didn't get to. To the audience, thank you for joining us. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, www.svtags. We are having an event July 9th. Hopefully you'll come out and support SVTAGS. It's a wine tasting potluck. It's a free event. Silver Mountain Winery is going to be giving 10% back to us, which is great. And make this a great week by conserving, reusing, and rethinking the way you choose to live here in Silicon Valley and beyond. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you.